This just revealed a lot about the Devils. New team, different results. That's the goal this year for New Jersey. But how well will they mesh? Implications? Let's talk. Welcome, Devil fans. Glad you're here. We want you to stick around, though. Hit the subscribe button. Season quickly approaching. 2 Thursdays from now, 15 days away from regular season hockey against Florida, defending Stanley Cup champions. How else would you want to get your regular season started? Go out, go for the best. But in the meantime, Devils do have some preseason hockey going on. 6-2 win over the New York Islanders last night. Devils had the first 15 shots of the game. The whole top 6 recorded a point last night. All in all, a great game from New Jersey. Saw a little bit more of what we're going to see going into the regular season. So, from what we saw last night from the top 6 and the Devils team in general, what from Sheldon Keefe said ahead of time, that this game was going to look a lot more like what we're going to see on Thursday against the defending Stanley Cup champions in the Florida Panthers. We're going to see a more NHL-ready roster. And we know you're watching preseason games, and I get it. Sometimes you kind of see what's going on, and there are players who, just getting ready for the regular season, players who are trying to find a roster spot. I know New Jersey's roster, a little bit more, condensed. You kind of know what's going to happen, what they're going to look like, what the players who are going to be there against Florida. You got to have more of a feel. But from last night and what the Devils did from this offseason, what Sheldon Keefe said ahead of time, top 6 looks great. And I know, I was one of those people who, during the offseason, said, I think it was imperative for the Devils to go get a top 6 forward. And they were in rumors. We heard Jason Robertson's name floating around. We know that Nikolai Ehlers was another forward who really could have fit the Devils system, who was right there in free agency, and you let him go to a division rival. And I think a lot of Devil fans, going into the offseason, they had a picture. They had an idea in their head of what they wanted. And you know what? When you keep seeing that day after day and you really start seeing reports that this could happen, you begin to romanticize that picture. And when it doesn't happen, all of a sudden, the underwhelmness and, just not feeling good starts to really, really creep in. And you all of a sudden start going, well, you know what? Where's this team going? Well, what is this team doing? Why can't they go get a top 6 winger? Well, when you go back and you look at Tom Fitzgerald and what he's done over the past 2 seasons, the contracts he's given out, Jesper Bratt, an 8-year deal. Timo Meier, an 8-year deal. Jack Hughes, 2021, an 8-year contract. When you give out 8-year contracts and that type of money, you're usually pretty confident of where they're going to play in the lineup. You're usually pretty confident of how your team's going to look. You like them in your top 6. You like them in your core. So when you do something like that, and you go back to last year, what happened? Jack Hughes gets injured, done for the year, affects New Jersey's goal scoring. Timo Meier, 1 goal in 19 games, affects New Jersey's goal scoring. Dawson Mercer, a pick of Tom Fitzgerald, on second straight bad year, affects New Jersey's goal scoring. So as a general manager who's made all these decisions, who's signed these contracts, who's made these picks, who's made these trades, when you see a year where the offense finishes 20th in the NHL in goal scoring and a 3rd-ranked power play, and you look at places where Jack Hughes, yeah, he did go out. Dawson Mercer had a second straight bad year, but he scored basically 32 years ago. Timo Meier was a 40-goal scorer. I just signed him to an 8-year contract. When you think of those, and you think about what his vision was, and it starts to align with what his vision, what next year could be, maybe a top 6 forward doesn't seem as needed. Now, I did want to add one, and I wanted to find a way to get a top 6 forward, get some more help for Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier down the middle. I wanted to do all of that. But when I see Tom Fitzgerald and what he's done so far and how he's built this team, it makes sense to an extent. I think when you work on something for a long time and you keep, doing things and, you keep building it and maybe something goes wrong, but in your head you said, well, no, this is going to work. You just got to give it some time. It's going to work. You're not going to move off of it too quickly, especially when you invested money into it. Money like multiple millions of dollars. When you invest multiple millions of dollars into something, and it doesn't exactly work out right away, but you did a lot of, studying and homework on how you feel like this is going to work out. You don't give up on it right away. And I feel like that's what Tom Fitzgerald felt in this offseason. He said, well, you know what, Jack Hughes, that contract looking really good. Jesper Bratt contract looking really good. Dawson Mercer looked really good year 1 and 2. Timo Meier, former 40-goal scorer. So when you can put those things behind it, and you can back it up with, well, we've seen them do it in the past, maybe top 6 isn't your number one priority. And I'm just trying to feel and kind of get in the head of Tom Fitzgerald and how he felt. And I feel like that's what he was thinking. That's what he felt going into this year. He said, well, you know what? I made a decision, and I stand by my decision. Maybe it didn't work out last year the way we wanted. And, there's some factors that are out of his control. This offseason, that was fully in his control. He could have made moves. He could have made a trade. He could have made a signing. He went in the bottom 6 again. And we've seen Tom Fitzgerald do that. I mean, the offseason before, he went out and he got more size in his bottom 6. He wanted more depth. He wanted to have a situation where injured defensemen weren't going to be a problem for New Jersey. He got scarred by goaltending and went and traded his first-round pick for Jacob Markstrom. Well, that's all worked out pretty well. So, when you look at the top 6 and how they looked last night, looked really good. I mean, they all had at least a point. Jack Hughes off an injury, 2 assists, first action back, since his shoulder injury. He looked really good. But the one thing I would say about the top 6 and how it looked last night, and we saw, it was dominant. First 15 shots of the game. They weren't playing, an Islander team. That's not their Islanders, regular season roster. But when you see how they moved the puck last night and how they played last night, you feel pretty good. The one thing I would say is, even I think Tom Fitzgerald could probably agree with this. You do make the moves, but when things aren't working, or maybe didn't work exactly how you want, you can pivot in a way without completely blowing it up. And I'm not saying they should blow it up, but you look to players like an Arseny Griciuk. An Arseny Griciuk who's on a low deal, not making a lot of money. You can throw him into the top 6 because there is skill there. He's proved it in the KHL. 2 years ago, he was second on his team in goal scoring. Another nice year last year, added 8 more assists. So when I look at that, I can go to my team and go, well, you know what? We didn't do anything in the offseason in terms of fixing our top 6, but we do have a player we think can fit there. Internally, an internal solution in an Arseny Griciuk, because obviously they had the rights, even though he's playing in the KHL, they had his rights. They drafted him. So when you have something like that, you can make fixes to your top 6. I mean, we see it in the NFL. Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. They were able to go ahead, Deebo Samuel. So, when you have players who are good, who are, on those rookie contracts, and you can maybe add in different places, or maybe put them in a spot where, there has to be part of the solution. Because Arseny Griciuk has looked really good so far. He looked really good. He looked just as advertised so far in the preseason. And if you're Tom Fitzgerald in New Jersey, you're probably going to need that. Because like I said, maybe it isn't going to exactly how Tom Fitzgerald has wanted it to go, but he did his homework. He's not just going to turn off of it. He's not just going to go, well, yep, we made a mistake. Can't say you made a mistake with the whole entire roster. And that's not, this team should be pretty good. But I think we all left last off season saying to ourselves, this team needs another weapon up front. And that weapon, hopefully, is Arseny Griciuk. I do think he has the capabilities. All in all, though, Devils top 6. Really good last night. Honestly, so far, it's been a really good preseason for New Jersey. They looked good. They found ways to score. I know they had the 5-3 loss to the Rangers, but that was more so, not the Devils lineup. We did see Arseny Griciuk play well. That's what you want to see in the preseason. Players trying to make the roster, play well, and when you do get your top 6 out there, they all score a point in that game. That's what you want to see in the preseason. Let me know down in the comments. How do you feel? Let me know. Hopefully, you hit the subscribe button, and we're quickly getting closer to the NHL season. So looking forward to that. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys all really soon.